So last week we started this new series, Are We There Yet? And we're talking about this journey of life and faith that all of us are on, whether you are a longtime follower of Jesus, or maybe you're just getting to know him, or maybe you're just sort of exploring even the idea of faith. It doesn't change the fact that all of us are on this journey. We all sense that. We feel with the passage of time, and we feel it in ourselves that we are on a journey somewhere, and we're hoping that somewhere out there is what we were made for, because we all feel intuitively that we were made for more. And so we started this conversation around this journey that we're on, and last week I introduced sort of 4 key components to any great journey, any road trip. If you ever traveled cross country, you need 4 things. You need fuel, or you're not going to get very far. You need travel companions. You need teamwork, and you need a purpose. You need a destination, right? Those are the 4 things. You need fuel, you need travel companions, you need teamwork, and you need purpose or a destination. And last week we started with the first one. We talked about fuel. That we need fuel for our lives. And we looked at scripture and saw that the Bible tells us that humans are made to run on love. That God, he is love. Love is the very essence of who God is. And having the one who has created us and sustains us, that he is love, that we were built for love. We were built to run off of love. And so that God's love is actually revealed and communicated to us in all the love that we experience in the world. That's in its pure form. We mess love up all the time, don't we? Like we get it wrong, we pervert it, we distort it. But love in its essence, for what it really is, all of that finds its source in God. And so we are created to run off of God's love. God's love is the fuel that we need for this journey that we're on. And this week we're going to look at the second piece, which is we need travel companions. And some of you hear that and you're like, nah, you're not really sure about that. You don't believe me. I get that because for a long time I didn't believe me. I thought for a long time that I could just do life on my own. So some of us, we're not buying that because we're loners. We just kind of do life on our own speed, like that's who we are. And then some of us though, we've been deeply hurt by people along the way. And maybe we had tight relationships at one point, or we wanted to have those relationships, but because of that hurt, because of that wound, we have backed off and we hold people at a distance. So we're not sure if we really need people too close in our lives to really travel with us. And then some of us, maybe you're just one of those people, you've got people everywhere. You just sort of take people for granted because you're surrounded by people all the time. In fact, you're not sure, maybe you actually need a few less people in your life. That actually sounds pretty good for some of you, right? I had a moment this week, and hear me, I'm going to keep all of my children, but I've got 4 kids, and there was a moment this week where I was in the kitchen, and it was just chaos because we're all getting ready for our day, right? You ever have those moments you're like in the kitchen, and Carrie's moving this way like faster than light, and my kids are like spinning around me. Everyone's grabbing breakfast and grabbing stuff, getting ready for the day. Carrie's getting ready for her day. I'm trying to get ready for my day, and I'm just like, I'm not moving, or I'm going to get run over. And in that moment, I was like, alone time sounds nice. I could go for that, right? So maybe you just feel like you're surrounded by people all the time. You're like, I don't need people in my life. I could use a little more space. But part of discovering who you really are going to travel with, those travel companions that you need, part of that is realizing that not everybody in your life is who you're traveling with. Not everybody in your life are your travel companion. Some people, they're like scenery. They're just like, whew, they just like blitz by you and you just sort of see them for a moment. Some people, they're like luggage, right? They're traveling with you, but you're doing all the heavy lifting. You're just sort of carrying them along, right? And so they're like extra baggage and you're the pack mule and you're just taking them wherever you're going and they happen to be going along as well. But what we need really for this journey that we're on, we need people who are going to travel with us and share the load. We don't need extra baggage. We don't need luggage. That's going to happen anyway. And we don't need people who are just passing us by, these casual acquaintances that just sort of zoom through our lives. We need people who are going to walk alongside us, people who are going to be with us in the journey of life. And one of the most beautiful passages, I think, in all of Scripture is in Ecclesiastes 4, where Solomon describes life together, companion. I disappeared. Oh, there we are. There we go. Thanks, guys. So Solomon says this in chapter 4 of Ecclesiastes, verse 7. He says, again, I saw something meaningless under the sun. There was a man all alone. Solomon, the way his mind works, he doesn't like to just take us to the good news first. He wants to depress us, all right? That's his MO. He's going to tell us the meaninglessness, but then something beautiful afterwards. So he starts with, there was a man all alone. He had neither son nor brother. There was no end to his toil, yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. For whom am I toiling, he asked, and why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless, a miserable business. But now he shifts gears. Verse 9, two are better than one because they have a good return for their work. If one falls down, his friend can help him up. But pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. I think it's interesting to imagine King Solomon here reflecting on loneliness and companionship, because if there's ever anybody who probably had a lot of people in his life, it's King Solomon. I mean, scripture tells us that he had 300 wives and 700 concubines. The guy had like a lot of people. We don't even know how many kids came out of that, not to mention his royal, court and officials. I mean, this guy was surrounded by people all of the time. You can imagine he very rarely had alone time, if ever. But see, you don't have to be alone to feel lonely. And most of us can probably relate to a time where we have been in a crowded space and we've felt very, very alone. See, loneliness and isolation are two different things. See, loneliness has to do with feeling alone, and you can feel alone in the most crowded subway. You can feel alone in the middle of a baseball game in a crowd of people. You can feel alone when you're at your spouse's office party and they all know each other and have inside jokes, and you're just sitting there like hanging out and waiting to go home. I remember when Carrie and I were dating, and she took me to her family reunion. And which was a gutsy move. We were very in love at that point. It didn't scare me off. But we're like driving there, and she's quizzing me on the names of like her uncles and aunts and cousins and everything. And I show up. It's a crowd. I feel very, very alone, right? So you can feel very alone in a very crowded space. But isolation is to be physically alone. Like you're literally isolated, distanced. We know that language. We are removed from everyone else. And the tragic reality of our modern society right now is that we feel very, very connected technologically. We were connected to people all over the world if we want to be. I mean, millions and millions of people, we can reach out. We see people online all the time. And so there's this illusion of being connected to people online, when in reality, there's this increasing loneliness and isolation that many, many of us feel. And it's only getting worse. And research suggests that there were 2 massive upheavals in the past 15 years that have really contributed to this, that have created this downward spiral, if you will. The first was the introduction of the iPhone, smartphone, and the second was a global pandemic. I think we all remember that pretty vividly. And so those 2 things together created this sort of perfect storm that has led us down into increasingly this sense of loneliness that contributed to isolation, that has driven up depression and anxiety. And see, it's the illusion of our connectedness technologically, especially through our relationship with our phone and our devices, that gives us the illusion of being connected, but then actually feeds and fosters that depression, anxiety, and sense of loneliness that drives us into further isolation. And the solution is we actually go deeper into our phones, right? And so we actually it's like drinking poison as the antidote. And we're on this downward spiral. I remember when my boss at the time told me I had to get an iPhone. At the time, I did not pay for phones. I was the guy who walked into AT&T and said, "What is your free phone?" And they said, "We've got some Nokias in the back that are like block phones." I was like, "Perfect," and I've got one still. I'm pretty sure it would work. I would love to go back. That would be amazing. But he was like, "You have to get an iPhone for your job. I need you to be more connected, be able to stay in connection with everybody." And so I did. I got my iPhone, and I opened up the box, and it lit up. It's a whole screen. It wasn't just like buttons, and it was like this whole screen. I saw these apps. I saw I could surf online, and I had this, in that moment, this like epiphany. I was like, I will never be bored again. Man, it's all there at my fingertips, the whole world. all the information, all the entertainment. I can connect with anyone, anywhere. It was amazing. And what the last 15 years have taught us is that phones should come with a warning label. Is that, yeah, you can stay connected to so many people, so many different places, but it comes at a cost. It will actually inhibit your ability to be present in the here and the now. That it will so consume your attention if you allow it to, that you will sit with people and barely be able to hear the words coming out of their mouths because you are so wrapped up in the device in your hand. And it leads to a kind of half existence where we are present physically, but our minds are somewhere else. I remember years ago, I went to this destination wedding. It was about 6 hours away from where we were living in Dallas at the time, this beautiful place that they invited us to. And unfortunately, we had very small children, and so Carrie stayed home with the kids. And so I went by myself, spent the night, amazing food, it was great, did the wedding, I performed the wedding, and I'm like, I'm gonna eat dinner, and then I'm gonna hit the road, get back to Carrie. And so I sat down at the dinner table, right? And because I didn't have Carrie, they put me with the singles. And so here I am, and I go over and sit with these really cool people, cool, young, awesome, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be cool for a few moments. I'm gonna go sit down with them. I sit down, and I look at all of them, and I realize none of them are looking at me. They're not looking at each other. They're just looking at their phones. And I thought, okay, challenge accepted. I will now conduct a social experiment. And I began to try to engage every single one of them in conversation. I'm like, I'm gonna get a conversation started around this table. I'm gonna find out where they're from and what they're interested in, and get them talking about music or movies or something. And so I started asking them questions, and I utterly failed. I'd ask a question, and they'd look up, kind of surprised that someone was talking to me or to them, and then they would answer the question and back down. And I try again. I tried with the next person and the next person. I am not exaggerating. I could not create any type of conversation. After 10 minutes or so, I just sat back defeated, realized that's it. I've met my match. I cannot defeat with the glowing rectangle in your hand. I can't do it. See, we've become so addicted to our devices. It becomes harder and harder to connect with other people because it's more and more difficult to disconnect from the devices that we hold. It becomes physically challenging to put it down. I've seen people, as I've tried to have a conversation with them, like around that dinner, where you can see almost like a mental struggle, a concerted effort. I will pull my attention away to see you, to look at me. And I've been there myself. I have moments where I'm in my home, and I've got my email on my phone, and I'm reading something, and then I realize my child is standing there trying to get my attention. And I have to make a concerted effort. I am putting this down. I'm going to give you my attention. I want you to know that I see you, and I'm listening to you. I'm not half listening because I can't actually do that. That's a dream, right? That's a myth. You can't do both. You have to give them your attention. But see, we give our attention to so many people who aren't even there. Think about all the people we give our attention to through this little device that we carry around with ourselves. We're listening to their videos and to their commentary, the talking heads, everything that we see online, and we're giving them all this attention. They could be anywhere in the world where the person who is physically present right there in front of us, we can barely even notice them. And if it weren't enough that we were already sort of borderline phone addicts, the pandemic tipped us right over. Because at that point, even what was normal social behavior for hundreds and thousands of years, right, of just being with people socially, suddenly we were told you can't do that. Right now you have to be distanced, you have to stay away from everybody else. Those are dangerous spaces. And so because of that, our phones became our lifeline. We had to reach out to people. We had to be on Zoom. We had to be on social media. We had to text. We had to engage whatever we could with and through our phones. And so it's no wonder that social anxiety has become so common, because not only were we already addicted to our phones, we're already finding really our identity and our value and who we are, all of it becomes wrapped up in our phones. But on top of that, for 2 years, we were told that those social environments that were normal for thousands and thousands of years, those are dangerous. Right? And so we began to view social gatherings as a place where we could die. Like they were life-threatening and dangerous. No wonder we're going to stay away from them. And so now we're being told, no, come back and gather with other people. But you just told me I was going to die if I walk into that crowd. And so no wonder we get stressed out. Right? We've created this environment of our own making, where we took what was normal behavior and we made it abnormal, and what is abnormal now has become normal. And see, we are still suffering from this. It's left this residue, and we have never fully recovered. The patterns that we adopted during the pandemic, even though largely, a lot of us, we've moved back into these social settings, it's still there. It's still there. There's a little bit of it hanging over. It's like this pandemic hangover where we're still addicted to our phones, we're still connected to our phones, and we still get a little bit nervous when around groups. And we've never fully recovered, and we see this in our society. And see, it's no wonder that over the last 15 years, when you put those two things together, over the last 15 years, research shows that there is this gradual increase and then steep spike with COVID, where every year people reported increasing levels of loneliness, anxiety, and isolation. For the past 15 years, it just keeps going up. Fewer people are getting married. Few people live together, room together. Fewer people are working in offices. Like if they can work remotely, that's what they're doing. I think that's starting to reverse a little bit now. But fewer people volunteer in their communities. Fewer people are part of social groups and communities and like churches. Fewer people are going out to dinner still with friends. Fewer people are still watching games together. We're still in this habit. Well, we'll watch by ourselves, and then we'll text our friends to let them know that we're watching the big game. Right? This hasn't changed. There's still this hangover from the pandemic of how we interact with the world around us. And see, the reason this is so messed with our minds, what's been so damaging for us, is that we're not created for this. We were created to be social beings. We were created to be in community with one another. We were created to do life with family and friends. And without them, we end up living like a phantom-like existence where we're here but not there, alive but not really living. Because see, you can't actually experience life the way you were created to experience life without other people. You can't enjoy life the way that we were created to enjoy life without other people to enjoy it with. I think this is what Solomon is hinting at in verses 7 and 8. I want to read this again. He says, "Again, I saw something meaningless under the sun. There was a man all alone. He had neither son nor brother. There was no end to his toil, yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. For whom am I toiling, he asked, and why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless, a miserable business." Now, in Solomon's context, like the most direct application here, he's envisioning someone who doesn't have an heir, someone to pass his fortune to when he dies. But what's making him miserable, and he's caught in this cycle of trying to get more and more and more, hoping that if he just has enough, he won't be miserable anymore. And the reason is because without anyone to pass all of it on to, he can't enjoy what he has. He can't enjoy what he has because he has no one to share it with, no one to give it to. See, I think Solomon is getting to something so profound here, that the reason why we can, in this day and age, in a way that has never been envisioned in all of human history, we can live on our own, right? We can live very isolated lives if we were to choose to do so. I'm so glad you guys are here. You're not choosing to do that. But if we wanted to, you could never leave your home. Like if you could work remotely, you either get DoorDash, you get an Uber, like you can surf the web. You can get everything that you want online. You can watch, I said surf the web, didn't I? My gosh, I'm old. All right, you can binge watch Netflix. Like you can do whatever you want online. You could have that be your entire existence, and it will still be utterly unsatisfying to you because joy is a shared experience. That's what Solomon wants us to see. You cannot enjoy your life without somebody to share it with. This is so hardwired into us. If you have something that you enjoy and you can't share it with somebody else, that joy will die in you. Right? This is why, imagine this for a moment, that when you're at the Phillies game and Bryce Harper hits a home run to win the game, what do? You share the joy. Like you cheer and you yell and you high five everybody around you, complete strangers, it doesn't matter. You are sharing the joy with other people. And if you're at home watching the game and you feel that joy, it's like Bryce Harper hit the home run, what do? You got to text somebody you know. You got to call them, you got to tell, did you see that home run? That was awesome. You are sharing that joy with somebody else because until you share it, it's not complete in you. You have to share the joy with someone else for that joy to be complete in you. My wife likes to run super early in the morning. It's insane. And she watches the sunrise and then she sends me pictures. Why? Because she's sharing the joy, the beauty of that sunrise with someone. You have to take that joy, you have to give it to someone else to perpetuate your own joy. And this is so hardwired into us that if we don't share that joy with someone else, that's something that we're taking so much joy in, over time it will actually become a bitter sweet and then eventually just bitter for us. It will leave us bitter and empty. It will be something that eventually it will be almost insulting to us, mocking to us. Imagine for a moment that you're on an island, desert island, no connection to the outside world, no connection to any human being whatsoever. Not online, nowhere. You cannot share anything that you're experiencing with anyone else. But on that island, you get everything you've ever dreamed of, right? Everything you've ever wanted, just not people. But you like cars on that island? You've got your Bugattis and your McLarens, your Porsche, like whatever it is, and you got a track and all the fuel you could ever want. Like you can do anything you want. The greatest car collection ever. Maybe you're into records. You've got the greatest record collection ever, right? You're into stamps. You've got the greatest stamp collection ever. Like whatever it is you're into, you just like food, all the foods you could ever imagine. And here's what will happen. Over time, those things, you'll enjoy them for a little while, and you'll come to despise them. You will look at all those cars and you'll be like, I hate those cars. You will hate your record collection. You'll hate your stamps because they are mocking you, because it is joy that is dying within you because you have no one to share it with. The joy that you have, if you don't share it with someone else, it dies in you. Joy is a shared experience. You have to give it away. You have to share it with someone else. Now, it's one thing to share some joy with people. You can share joy with complete strangers. You're at the Phillies game, you're high-fiving people, you have no idea who they're at, it doesn't matter. You are sharing that joy. It's another thing to do life with somebody. And this is where Solomon, he wants to up the ante. He says, it's great to enjoy life. You got to find other people, but to travel in life with someone, to do life with someone else, this is another level of commitment. And so in verse 9, look at it again. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their work. If one falls down, his friend can help him up. But pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. For years, this was a passage that I always thought was beautiful. I always thought it was poetic, and I didn't buy it. I didn't believe this passage was really true or at least applicable to me. See, I was the guy in school, when there was a group project, I did the whole thing, because I didn't trust those other people. I didn't trust them to do it the way I wanted, and clearly my way would be right. So I didn't trust them to walk alongside with me even in a project, much less life. Like I didn't trust anyone with anything that mattered. See, trust, if you're going to find someone to travel with, can I tell you that trust is the essential characteristic that you're looking for? And we don't always think of that first. Like if you're thinking about a potential relationship, you're not thinking, man, I really hope they're trustworthy. You're like, I like her personality, or we have shared interest. That's because trust is a given. We just assume that trust will exist because without trust, there is no relationship, at least not a healthy one. And this is true in business, this is true in friendship, this is true with any relationship in your life. For it to be a healthy relationship, there has to be trust. And without it, you are never going to be able to complete this journey. You're never going to be able to travel together. You'll end up moving in different directions, or one of you will pull you off course. See, this is why the scriptures talk about not being unequally yoked with another person. There's different applications for this, but one of them, understand, and just so we understand the language here, to be yoked with someone is to be attached to them, connected to someone. And the imagery is from when you were farming land. I don't know if anyone here tills soil, but they would have had oxen. And you have one ox and a second ox, and so they need to be equally yoked. In other words, they need to be of equal strength and size, otherwise they can't till in a straight line. If you get a big ox and a teeny ox, then they're just gonna go the direction of the big ox the whole time, and they won't till in a straight line, they'll till in a circle. And so the picture here is that we have to be yoked with people who are headed in the same direction, have the same passion, the same interest, and if you can't trust them to keep up, if you can't trust them to have your back, to support you, to be up to the task, then they're gonna pull you off course. Like they're gonna reroute you from the journey that God has created you for. But when you have that person that you can trust, whose life aligns with you, you're traveling together, you can travel faster, lighter, with a whole lot less effort and a lot more joy. And when the journey does get hard, you've got someone else there to help you through. See, it's so interesting that the three examples that Solomon gives could be read as hazards of travel. So if you go back to verse 10, it says, if one falls down, his friend can help him up. But pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. You can imagine in the ancient world, when you're traveling, you're not in a car, you can't call AAA, you don't have these nice paved highways. No, you're walking and you're going along, and you know what? You could fall, you could trip, you could be injured, you fall down a pit, you fall down a ravine, and then you're stuck unless there's someone there who will pull you out. And see, the image here is of a travel companion who is walking alongside you, and when you get stuck, they pull you out. There's someone who they could leave you behind, but they choose not to. They will sacrifice their convenience. They will sacrifice their time. They will sacrifice what they've got going on because they see you're in need, and they say, your problem is my problem. You get into trouble, man, I'm gonna help pull you out because we're in this together. Travel companion. Verse 11, also if two lie down together, they will keep warm, but how can one keep warm alone? Again, you're traveling the ancient world, there's no Holiday Inn. You're not stopping along the line and, oh man, this is great. Got a nice warm bed and blankets and everything. No, you're going along. It's a cold night you don't see coming. You get somebody else you can huddle up together for warmth. And it's a picture of mutual benefit. Like it's the two of you together saying, man, I'm going to share my warmth with you. Right? We're going to keep each other warm. And we're looking for people in our lives who are going to share what they have with us because they identify themselves with us. Right? It's the two of us together. So my money is your money. Like, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to share my resources with you as needed. Whether that's money, time, energy, whatever it is. But I know that together we're going to be able to walk this journey successfully. And then lastly, he says in verse 12, right? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of three strands is not quickly broken. I love Solomon's logic. It's so clear. Man, two's good, three's better. In ancient wisdom, this was a very common equation. You would take a number, and it's like, this number is so important, this number is so good. Plus one, ooh, even better. Well, it's really true when you're being attacked on a highway by robbers. I mean, one's good. I could use three. Right? I have four. Like, that'd be okay. I'd be okay with that if I'm being attacked and my life is threatened. See, the picture here is of that person who is going to be in your life, who's in your corner, and who will get in the foxhole with you. Right? They don't leave you there. They're not like, oh man, this is getting a little dangerous, getting a little hot over there. Like, I'm just going to let you deal with it. No, I'm in there with you. I'm in the thick of it, even at my peril. Right? Even if it's dangerous and it would threaten me, like, I'm going to be in there with you. It's my fight now because it's your fight. Your fight is my fight. I'm there, and the two of us, we are going to fight together so that we can continue on this journey. See, if you're going to survive this journey, you need those people in your life, those travel companions. They are going to pick you up when you're down. They are going to give you the shirt off their back, whatever resources they have, mikase sukas, right? Like, I'm going to give whatever you need, and they'll be in the foxhole with you when things get rough. They're not going to bail. They're not going to run away. Your fight is my fight. We ride or die together. Here we go. When I was in college, I did the whole backpack across Europe thing. And I didn't make it through all of Europe, but it was a good portion. Spent several weeks on the road with my buddy Brad. And we were backpacking bros. It was awesome. Brad's such a great guy. And so we were going to do this thing together, and we got in some weird situations because we're like 20, 21 years old and didn't always make the best decisions. One time, we were in Chamonix, France, and that's where Mount Blanc is. Mount Blanc is the highest peak in the French Alps. And we had this brilliant idea that we were going to hike up the mountain. And so we left our bags and our luggage down in like a locker at the train station. And so we've just got, one like backpack with some food and a jacket. But we're in like shorts and a t-shirt because it's the middle of summer. It's gorgeous outside. It's beautiful. So we just start hiking up this mountain and we just keep going. And it's like these back forests, and then we pass the tree line. We're like way up. We just keep going, and the tree line's down there, and we get up, and we're like, we hit the snow line. That's how high up we went. Here's the snow line. We're like, well, we can't go any further, right? Don't have the equipment for this. And about that time, we realized, it's getting late, and it's a long way down there. And so we had one of those travel guides. Back in the day, we didn't have cell phones. We weren't Googling anything up. So we had a travel guide that said there was a hostel kind of on the other side. So we started making our way around, and we realized that it is way down there. And I mean way down there. And by the way, it's starting to sleet at this point, and the temperature is dropping because the sun is going down. And we're like, it's good. It's good. We're going to go find a place. We'll just sleep here on the mountain. And we found this like little cave, and we kind of like crawl in there, and it just keeps getting colder and colder and colder, and verse 11 became very real for us in a way that I don't really like to think about. Like we were huddled up for warmth, trying not to freeze to death, right? It was one of those, we got done and we kind of walked out of the cave like, let's never talk about this again. We were freezing, right? But Brad, man, he's my backpacking bro. Like we didn't bail. It wasn't like, dude, you're on your own, I'm out of here. No, it was like, dude, okay, like just, kind of like right here, and, just like bundle up. How are we going to survive this night, right? Like you're in it together. You don't bail. You don't freak out. It's like, man, you're here. I'm here. We're going to survive. Later in the same trip, though, we got on a train, and we were going to meet some friends over in Prague. And so we get on this train, and we're traveling across, go through Switzerland, go through Austria, and we get to the Czech Republic border. And at that time, this is a long time ago, so I don't know what it's like now, but at that point, customs getting into the Czech Republic was not friendly. Like they had a lot of like Soviet rule and stuff, and so maybe there's some like hangover from that, but there was not like this nice custom agent who was like, hey, what's the purpose of your visit, and can I stamp your passport? No, like you're sitting on the train and you just kind of stop. Don't know when this is coming. Like it just stops. Soldiers get on with AK-47s. They open all of your cabin doors, and all they say is passport. Here it is. Like don't shoot me. Don't pull me off the train. And so they do that, super intimidating. We're like, here's passport, okay, we're good. In the cabin next to us, though, we'd met these 3 college girls, and they were doing the same thing we're doing. They'd been in Switzerland, they'd traveled across by train, they've been on a train for quite a while, and we get there, and those guys come over, and they're banging on their cabin door. They open the door, and about that point, one of them realizes she doesn't have her passport. She left it in Switzerland. So she is panicking, freaking out, and they're like, you get off the train, right? They're just going to pull her off the train. You cannot come any further. And you know what her friends did? Said bye, and they left her at the border. No train station, just a platform. And they left her to go on her own back to Switzerland, back to where she hoped she would find her passport, because again, no cell phone. She can't call the hostel and be like, did you happen to pick up my passport? She's got to go all the way there, hopefully find it. And they're like, it's fine. We'll meet you in Prague. No plan, no idea where they're going to be staying. How hard can it be to find someone in Prague? I mean, surely it's got to be really easy. And they left her behind. And they went on. And I'm out there, I'm like, no. You have to stay with her. Like, you can't do that. You can't bail on this poor girl. She's just going to be like going back by herself. And they're like, no, she'll be fine. We're going to go on. It's like, this is a terrible idea. Like, you should not do this. This is a bad idea. And they said, no, we're going on. And they left her behind. And see, I knew from my experience, this was a terrible idea. I knew that when you are in that kind of a situation, you've got somebody that you are with, man, you don't bail on him. You got to stick with them. You got to be in the trenches with them. Man, we are going through this together. But can I tell you what I understood so clearly on a backpacking trip in Europe? It took me years to figure out in life. One of the hardest lessons I've ever learned. See, for so many years, I just thought I can do this. Man, I'm strong, I'm capable, I can figure stuff out, I'm resourceful, I'm self-reliant, and I can do it. And my journey is my journey. It's not anybody else's. And I treated everyone else in my life like they were extra baggage. They were luggage. And so if you were slowing me down or got in my way, man, I'd jettison you. And I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna get rid of you because I'm doing my thing and I'm gonna look out for me. And it took years for God to begin to break through that. And he began to reveal to me that I didn't even like who I was. Like I got to know myself and I was like, man, I don't even like who I am. And for me to become the person that God created me to be, a better version of myself, I had to begin to let people into my life, which was hard because I didn't trust people. I didn't trust people to do the things that I wanted them to do, and I didn't trust them to not let me down. And so I was gonna do it by myself, but little by little, I began to open myself up to relationship. And it was only then, as I allowed people into my life, that I began to really experience the beauty of living. Because can I tell you, the best part of the journey is who you go with. That's what I've learned. The best part of the journey is who you travel with. And so my question for you is, who are you traveling with? Do you have some people in your life who are those travel companions for you, who will be with you, give you the shirt off their back, who will share whatever they've got because you're in this journey together? They'll fight for you because you're in this journey together. And if you're married, listen, I hope that person you're married to, they're your person. I hope that's your experience with them. I hope that's your kind of relationship. But I'll tell you, Carrie, she's my person. Man, we've been through so much life together. She's my till death do us part travel companion. But even she will tell you that we need friends in our lives. And we have worked really hard over the years to cultivate and to maintain some very deep relationships, friendships, even over a distance. And it's not ideal. It's not what I dream of. And we get together with them whenever we can. But there's those people, you pick up the phone, and it's like the conversation's never ended. You need those people in your life. But this is one of the reasons that Carrie and I have been in small groups over the years. Because church is a unique place where you can cultivate those friendships. See, one of the first things you have to find when you're looking for people to travel with you is that you're headed in the same direction. And when you become part of a community group, you're being introduced to people who are saying, we are on this journey to a deeper faith and trust in Jesus. Join us. Come on in. Let's travel together. And so for some of you, maybe this is that next step that you need to take. Maybe you've been sort of on the fringe for a while. You come on Sundays. I'm so glad you do. Maybe you're involved in like little places here and there, but maybe for you, you need to take the next step of getting into a community group with fewer people and actually let them get to know you a little bit. Listen, I know that that's scary. I've been there, believe me. And I'm not saying walk in there, spill everything, be totally vulnerable and share everything about your life story. Life is a game of inches. Move a little bit and see what God does. Move a little bit, see who you can trust. Move a little bit towards other people and see how you're received. So maybe for some of you, you need to take that step towards other people and discover if maybe there's a travel companion there for you. The other side of this equation is that for some of us, some of you here at Easton, you've been here for decades. And you've got your groups, your close-knit group of friends, your travel companions. But there are other people who don't have that yet. We have a whole group of people more all the time who think of Easton and call Easton their home, but it doesn't quite feel like home yet because they don't have those people. And so for those of us who do, we need to go out of our way to invite them in. We need to make room for them. We need to make them feel at home because this is their home. We want them here. And we do that because we were once on the outside. And we do that because we know that Jesus did that for us. He created the space that we need. He created this community. We didn't. When we were all on this journey, whether you realize it or not, at some point, it becomes clear that there was a dead end that humanity ran into in the journey. There's a pit of spiritual grave that we are in until Jesus gets us out. Jesus is the one who comes along, and where he could have just left us behind, he says, no, I am not going any further without you. And he gave up heaven itself in order to come and rescue us and pull us out. And when death was crouching at our door and waiting to attack us and kill us once and for all of eternity, Jesus, he fought that fight that we could never win. He didn't just risk his life and his peril. He gave his life for us to rescue us and pull us out of the pit. Jesus is the one who creates this community. Jesus is the one, through his death, not only reconciles us to God, but to one another. He's the one who pulls us together. He is the travel companion who makes the journey possible. So if you're here and maybe you feel alone right now, maybe you're in a crowded space, but you don't feel connected. You don't feel like anybody really knows you. And maybe you're not ready to take the next step. I want you to know that Jesus is the friend for you. Listen, I've been there. I've had moments in my life where I've felt so alone. And if I'm honest with myself, I was too afraid to reach out and to ask for help, to take a step towards other people. But it was in that space that Jesus met me. It was in that space that Jesus showed up and he said, you're not alone. I am with you and I will be with you. And he gave me the courage to begin to step into relationship with other people. And he opened up a whole new world for me. It's changed my life. So if you're here and you feel alone, you're not alone. Let's pray. Father, I thank you that when we had rejected you, we had turned away from you, and we were on a journey that was going to only lead to the deadest end imaginable, that, God, you so loved the world that you gave us Jesus. And then, Jesus, you were willing to say, I am going for them. I will rescue them. I will be the friend that they need to pull them out of the pit, to give them everything that I have so that they can have life, and even lay down my life for them so that they could live. Lord, I pray that we would be a community that welcomes people in. I pray that we would be a community that experiences what it is to have deep relationships, to truly belong. Not to everybody in the church, that's impossible, but to have those few people that we can rely on, and we are that person to them, that we can continue this amazing journey of life and faith that you have us on, and that through our relationships with one another, we will grow together into who you've created us to be. That's my prayer. That's what I envision. That's what I dream of for our church. And Lord, for those who are maybe newer, they're just beginning to taste what this community is about, I pray that what they hear today would be encouraging, that we want to make space for them. And then I pray that as they have opportunity, Lord, that they would just take courageous steps of faith. Maybe it's to join a small group. Maybe it's to join Regen. Maybe it's just to have a conversation and have a cup of coffee with somebody new. Maybe it's to come to the Get to Know Easton lunch next week or in 2 weeks. Lord, I don't know what that next step is, but I pray that, especially for those who feel alone, that they would know they're not alone and that we want to make space for them. Lord, thank you that when we were on a journey to nowhere, you walked alongside us. Let us be a place where we walk alongside one another as we grow together. It's in your name we pray. Amen. One of the ways that we do grow together and we travel together here at Easton is through community groups. And maybe you're at a place where you need to take that next step. And so just real quickly, I want to let you know that you can do that a variety of ways. One is you can go on the website and find information there. You can always email us at the office. You can do that, reach out to us. One of the easiest ways is if you have your phone. I know I'm not telling you to worship your phone. But if you have a phone, you can download an EBC app. Now, here's the deal. We don't do that because it's gimmicky or because it's cool. We do it because it works. It's just an easy way for you to connect with us. So it's just a tool, but if you go onto the EBC app, there's a link for Find Your Community Group. And if you open that link, you're going to find all different groups that we have here that meet at different times, different places, different days of the week, different topics, different leaders. And my encouragement to you is take a look. See if maybe there's a group that would be right for you. And if you're not sure, try one. Try one. You're not signing your life away. It's not a lifelong commitment, but try one. Get to know some people. Take a step in and see what God does. I love you, church. God bless.